All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's webinar on Get the Most Out of Active Classroom, Facilitating Online Discussions. My name is Jessica Hayes, and I am an Active Classroom Certified Trainer. We are so glad that you are all here with us this afternoon. Our presenter this afternoon is Carol Hill. Carol has taught fifth grade and middle school, sixth through eighth grades. She was in the classroom for 11 years and taught reading, reading intervention, AVID, U.S. history, world cultures, and geography, and Texas history. In addition, she taught GED classes for 7 years and has been a gifted and talented trainer for the district while teaching school. Now she's in her fourth year as a social studies instructional specialist for San Antonio ISD. Her favorite part of being an instructional specialist and supporting 8 schools is ensuring that teachers get what they need for student learning and to build informed citizens for our country's future. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Carol.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And I am just really excited that y'all are here. It's a time of year where, things are just very strange and everybody is doing their best. So I just want to thank you for at the end of your school day for joining us here. So thank you for that. We're going to be talking about facilitating online discussions in active classroom. And of course, the guidelines that we use, you'll be able to use in any online discussion. But the first thing I'd like to know is, who do we have here this evening? So what I am asking you to do is just in the chat, if you type in your name, the state that you are in, your grade, your content, and do you use discussions? And just yes, rarely, or no. So here's my example. Carol from Texas, 6 to 8 social studies, and yes, I use discussions. So if you could type that in the chat so I can get to know you a little bit. And I'm going to open up my chat so that I can see what's coming in. So if you get a black spot on your screen, it's probably my chat box open. So forgive me while I just, so Jenny in Iowa, 6th grade social studies. And
you're from Iowa too.
All right. My daughter, actually, we live in Texas, as you know, but my daughter went to school at St. Ambrose in Iowa, Davenport. She loved it up there. Ginger, 6 world regions and cultures, not yet. Okay. And then, let's see.
Have Pamela from Maryland, 7th grade, and some.
Oh, good. Okay. And some discussion from Laura Perry in Georgia, the Peach State. Okay, and then I think, has Shane had a chance to respond? I guess I'm not seeing all the responses.
He is a 7 to 12 instructional coach from Oregon, and discussions are awesome, he says.
Okay, yes, they are. Okay, thank you all for just giving us a moment to see who is involved in this webinar today. So here are the objectives. We're going to talk about why discussions are important. We're going to look at the tools that you need to better facilitate the dialogue with your students, tips and tools from Active Classroom, and that'll come towards the end. They really have some great resources that you can actually share with your students so that you can help them understand what a healthy discussion looks like, and then how to for actual active classroom discussions. So each of you, Jessica sent out your own student login. Please do not use your teacher or coach login. Please use a student login. And if you go to Active Classroom, log in as student number, and not just like student2@hill.edu. The password is password. So if you'll go ahead and get logged in, I'm going to explain a little bit. I'm trying to get this out of the way. How you're going to go about getting to this discussion. So you know these icons because it sounds like you ladies and gentlemen are familiar with that. So click on the discussions icon. As a student, you won't have the same number that the teachers do. And when you click on to discussions, up at the top, you're going to have by assignment, general, and by course. So I need you to click on general. And then you're going to see share one tip and one challenge regarding online discussions. So if you would go to there, oh, and I've got my little click there. Okay, then you're going to come up with this and you're going to, okay, I'm sorry, I'm still having to maneuver the images out of the way. I apologize. And you're going to actually click on this, looks like a double speech bubble. So that's where you're going to click in order to access the speech. So go to Active Classroom, log in, the password is password, and you're clicking on share one tip and one challenge regarding online discussions. Okay. So, oops, I had it and I messed it up. There we go. Okay, so there are two of them. You're going to click on that one. You're going to click on edit and you're going to go in and create either a new thread or edit, but you can just go ahead and click edit. We've already got student 3, pre-teach expectations. Good. And a couple of you said you hadn't used the discussions yet. So that's okay. Just what is something that's keeping you from that? So you can just share that if you would. So I'm still sharing my original screen. And I just had my active classroom up. So I'm just looking at what's happening there. So pre-teach expectations. So far, that's the only one I'm seeing. Are we having trouble getting logged in or are we doing okay?
See, if you have any trouble, you can put that in the chat if you would like.
I'm logged in, but I have no idea where to go after that.
Okay, so that's okay. Let's click on discussions. Let me get back up to the full screen. All right, so do you see the discussions icon? You won't have this many, you'll only have about 3. Did you click there first?
Yes, I'm on discussions.
Okay, great. And did you click on general at the top center?
Nope. Okay.
Okay, so general, there you go. And this is what you should see. And then you'll click on the discussion. And that should give you this, the share one tip, one challenge. So are you still with me?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then click on the little, like, I call it like a double speech icon over there. And that should take you to the discussion.
Double speech icon.
So did you make it?
I don't see a double speech. New thread. Is that what I do? Is a new thread?
No, you can do that, but there's a little, you don't see the like the double little speech thing like on my screen? Okay, well, go ahead and start a new thread. Okay. So the fun part. So all I'm having you do for right now is just make a post so you can see what it's like for the students as they go in and they post. So when you're done with that, so this is back on the screen, this is what it should look like when you go to make a post, and you'll just type right in that area. And what I need you to remember to do is to click submit post. Because if you don't submit post, we won't see it. So are we doing all right now?
Yep.
Just look. Let's see, there we go. Appropriate comments. Student accountability, record keeping. Thank you, student 3, student 2. Okay. Are fantastic to incorporate collaboration and inquiry into your online. Challenge is that some students don't seem to have the confidence to turn on their camera and participate in meaningful discussion. And you know, the nice thing about discussions is they can also take place asynchronously. So you do not necessarily have to have your camera on. So if you would like to come back to the webinar and we'll continue on there. Thank you all for participating. So we had some good reasons already about why we should have classroom discussions, well, the online discussions, and it's student-centered. It's a nice way that you can check for understanding with your students. You can practice your grade level or even AP writing. You give the students a chance to practice with citing sources and supporting their claims and opinions. And I know those AP teachers in high school, they get all over middle school teachers about, y'all, they got to do this. So we're using the claim, explain, reasoning, the CER. Also, it can be done asynchronously for kids to collaborate when they have to respond to a post. They can learn from each other. And one thing that I like to do is when you find a good post that you think, oh man, they've addressed what the student was saying or a question they had, or they did a good job responding to a student where what a student wrote maybe wasn't very clear. And those you want to save, you can just remove the student name so that students can see authentic student posts. That's very important. And then someone talked about students not having the confidence. Practice makes perfect. And this gives them an opportunity to practice. And then, you know, in today's environment, we see the evidence of how important it is for us to teach our students how to, Ruth Bader Ginsburg says, how to disagree without being disagreeable. And then the big why. According to Fisher and Frey, students need to spend 50% of their weekly class time in peer-to-peer discussion. That is vital to their actually taking that content and processing it and being able to file it away in order to bring it back out and use it when they do their next discussion with you. And then I have a crush on John Hattie. He is my educational crush. And he has done research on what has effect, a positive effect, and as you can see, negative effect, reverse effects on student learning. So the way he has set up this little zone here is at 0.4, that is 1 year's growth. 1 year's growth, okay? And you want your students to grow at least 1 year. However, I'm in San Antonio ISD, and I tell people we put the down in downtown. So we have students who are behind. We have students who are ahead, but we do struggle with that. And classroom discussion, as you can see here, has a 0.82 effect on student growth, almost 2 years. And I know you can see it right here, but that's not where it actually falls as far as the effect size. So when your students have a chance to discuss with each other, to talk, then you are giving them the opportunity to have almost 2 years worth in growth. Okay, so what are some tips for online discussions? Because things can go bad fast or they can really grow quickly when we set up the students. In fact, I think student 3 shared that we have to have student expectations. So you want to teach them how to develop a claim, and depending on what grade you're teaching, because a couple of you are 6th grade, don't worry about a thesis statement. Just tell them to make a claim. I believe that blah, blah, blah. I believe that Abraham Lincoln was the best president ever. That's my claim. So keep it simple. You don't have to get outlandish with the 3-point thesis statement. Now, as the kids get older, yeah, they need to be able to do that. Okay. And then you want to talk to them about keywords in the title that they need to make sure that they are stating that argument. So what is your claim? State that in the title of their post. And then they also want to get others thinking. They can say he was the best president ever, that Abraham Lincoln was the best president ever, because maybe they say because he ended slavery and that makes him the best. That's a bold statement. But maybe someone says, you know what? I don't think that makes him the best. I think that makes him good. And that creates that open-ended opportunity. Your postings, short, clear, and purposeful. Make your point. Don't sit there and rewrite the textbook. You make your claim, You state the evidence and why that supports your claim. Quick and dirty. And this part I like. Some kids, they just don't like to be wrong. And sometimes because they don't want to be wrong, they hesitate to post. So make sure that students understand, the more we learn, the more we're informed, the better decisions and choices we can make. So if someone says something, you're like, you know what, that's got me rethinking. I like what she said. You've convinced me, or can you share more? I didn't think about it that way. Can you share more with me? And let them know that they can open up to each other to expand on a topic or to expand their understanding and thinking. Okay, so what are some other practical considerations? They need to make their context clear. It's nice when they can quote or refer to a specific sentence that is in the original post or the post to which they are responding. And they need to add value. You don't want to say, gosh, that's so stupid. That doesn't help anybody, and it shuts down the other thinkers. But saying, I disagree because, and then explain why you disagree, because that's where the conversation happens. And there are conversation stems. There are many out there where you can find either just how do you answer a question, or here's a stem for how to look at something with a specific skill, such as if you're analyzing or if you're comparing and contrast. And then probing questions. There's an article at the end, and there were so many, it would have been like 2 or 3 pages. So I didn't want to include all of them. And also clarifying respectfully with why you disagree. And that's part of making the post clear and explaining why you agree or disagree. The point of a discussion is to keep the discussion going. So if this discussion is sort of ramping, it's sort of tying itself up in a nice little bow, that's fine. Let kids know, kind of like that Socratic seminar, where they want to make sure that they give some opportunities to bring in another thought or look at it from another perspective. This, I think, is really important about just quickly having a response, because your emotions, like, what do you mean you don't disagree? But this is really good thinking. They recommend that you talk to students about waiting before responding. The nice thing about a discussion online, when you have to type out your information, tell them it's okay to type out their first initial reaction, but then go back and look at it and make sure that what they are posting is respectful, that whether they agree or disagree, that they're explaining why, and that this helps the conversation move on, that it's not going to get stuck, and it's not like a battle between 2 people. So they need to keep that in mind. I go back to the rotary dial phones. You could never call someone and be upset because you were just so exhausted after dialing through all that rotary every time you hit a 9 or an 8. And now you just say, Siri, call so-and-so. So you want to provide what they're calling Netiquette rules. And I really liked this, the way they talked about it. To be clear, avoid abbreviations. Not everybody does this type of texting. I know it is the mainstream for our teens and our tweens, but we still, in an academic setting, when we're trying to share ideas and support a claim, we need to do it in an academic manner. In fact, you could even have your students, you could give them academic language that you're looking for them to use in their post, and maybe they get extra points when they use it. We've talked about using the subject line, that sometimes instead of giving your whole point, you can just sort of do a teaser, like when they do on the news, when they say, did Biden win or did Trump? News at 11. So, the teaser's like, well, I don't know who won. And then something simple like the all caps. And some people just like all caps because then they don't have to worry about capitalizing a proper noun. But that's really not something that you want to have your students doing, especially since it basically sounds like or looks like you're yelling at someone. And be careful with the sarcasm. I mean, I think we've all been recipients of what happens or been in a situation where someone misunderstood something that we posted or texted, or we misunderstood what someone else said. And in order to avoid that, they don't want to type something and put, oh, JK, right? Just kidding. Yeah. That is not the place for it. And then read posts carefully. I always tell my students, well, my teachers, and then when I'm helping in the classrooms, to read, read, read. So read the post. And if you're like, that doesn't quite make sense, go back and read it again and see if maybe your eyes were tricking you. And that's another good reason why you want to refer to what the person posted in your response. Okay, and we've talked about this, that posts should add to the conversation, that it's not fair to waste someone else's time. And we talked about the using academic language. Social studies especially is difficult with all the academic language that students are expected to learn and know. And actually 58% of social studies academic language is learned in elementary school. So our sixth grade teachers, and there's some of you on there, and I've taught sixth grade, we sometimes have quite a lot to catch up on with our kids, with their use of academic language. So the more that they're using it and speaking and in writing, then the better off they're going to be when they're actually being able to apply it. Like instead of never eat sour watermelon, they all know that, but how many of them actually know what Northeast, South, and West mean? And how does that apply to a map? And then all these resources are at the end of the webinar. I've got them all available for you. Okay, so let's talk about different types of discussions. And the good news is they're all under discussions. So we have discussions every time, and in case you didn't know this, every time you assign a lesson, a discussion is automatically generated. And you can see here that these are all pieces, all assignments that I've made to my students at hill.edu. And so just by assigning it, it has created a discussion. And you may not realize that, but it does do that every time. You can do it by general, which means you get to decide what you want the topic to be. And you can do it by course. Now, the nice thing about this, about doing it by course, that if you wanted to put some of your really strong learners together and really get that iron sharpens iron going, that's a nice way for your gifted and talented students. That's an easy extension, because remember, gifted and talented is about depth and complexity. It's not in addition to what their work is, you're replacing their work. So replace one of their discussions every now and then with one where they're discussing with other pre-AP students or GT students. Also, what you can do is you can create mixed groups within that course, which could be nice when you're trying to help other students develop their English language. And here's what you can use it for. So when you are doing discussions by assignment, you can check for understanding. You can correct misconceptions, because as you see when they're assignments, especially if it's something where it's already graded for them in active classroom, so fill in the blank, true or false, multiple choice, are all graded already in active classroom. So you can see where are they not getting it. You can create a discussion right there, and then you can have them work through that misconception in the discussion. You can also create exit tickets in that discussion, and then even have an interactive review, almost like instead of call and response, it's you type in a question and they type in their answer or justify the answer, you make a statement. What is that? Among Us is a game the kids are playing. So you can write a statement and they have to tell you whether it's a fact or a fib, but it's different in the word Among Us. And then if you want to do one in general, you can introduce familiar content with the general discussion and get them used to actually using the discussion. So it could even be, what is your favorite movie? Or what's your biggest challenge in online learning? Whatever you want it to do. You can also make it interactive review by having the students create review questions with a post, and the other students are having to reply to that review question. And then when someone replies, then the next person has to extend it. Then someone else connects it to something else that they're studying and just keeps making those connections. Or this is important vocabulary with it. Here's a misconception people have on this item. So you can actually, in the process of this interactive review, you can have kids actually correcting misconceptions. Some of us thought this, but now we know that this is what it actually is. You can also use it for events going on at school. And, with kids coming back into the classroom, depending on where you're at, what your, matrix is for getting kids back in the schoolroom, why shouldn't that be a dialogue? And what a great dialogue about the president, because, now it's being contested. All the news outlets are saying Biden won, but Trump is saying there's been issues with that. So what does the law say? We know what the news is saying. We know what Trump's saying. We know what Biden's saying. What does the law say can be done? That's a great interactive dialogue that you can have on current events. You can also do a mini lesson where you can assign the discussion just to the kids who need a mini reteach. You could put embed a video in the general discussion and then have them respond to it there. But you could also make it a scavenger hunt. Where will you find? So tell me, where in your notes would this be? What lesson did we do this on? So the kids have had fun with that. And then if you do it by course. So not only can you extend and enrich your students who just need that iron sharpens iron, you can also scaffold in. You can add stems, you can add images, you can put frames in there, paragraph frames, or even like a CER frame. This is what you claim, the article said, so that proves that it supports that. We talked about the depth and complexity. You can also, sometimes with those different classes, sometimes it's nice to have them like get out of their own class and sort of switch it up just to make things new. It's also fun and interactive. And then you can also reteach. You can put a hook in there by course. You can extend, connect, or engage. So you have all these opportunities just within the discussion area. So when we're doing discussions, and I've alluded to this a little bit about how do we do this, you've got your mixed skill group, and that really makes sure that you've got someone who can kind of keep it on topic, and you've got others. Some of my kids in social studies, I found they may have difficulty with reading, but you get them talking and they got it. They got it down. They definitely hold their own. You could also, as we talked about, do it by skill level, and you can do cohort groups. So I did a mixture of the mixed skill level groups. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Kagan training, where they have, AB partners and then seats 1, 2, 3, and 4. One year I had 32 boys in my 7th grade homeroom. 10 of them were special ed. Another 4 or 5 were 504. And it was a tough group. I even had a gang leader in that class. And his father was a gang leader. So it was an interesting dynamic in that classroom. But I implemented the mixed skill level. And all of a sudden, the boys are having to pay attention because there's not just one person doing all the work. So I worked those multi-group levels, the multi-skill, and I basically kept them in a cohort. So they were in a group for usually a 9-week session, unless something happened and we got a new student or someone left or something just wasn't working that I needed to, move some kids around. but you really want to be intentional when you group your students. If you're going to do it by a course or do a small group, you want to be intentional about that. Okay, so having the discussion, this is what it looked like. Texas Interactive Mapping was one that I had an assignment that I had given to my students. And then this is a response, and I did them both. So that's just what that would look like. And this is your little key here. That's how you're going to be able to respond to somebody. And when you do, it pops up. Now, what I really like about this is that here's what someone actually posted up here. So it's going to make it easy for your students to include information or quote from that original post. So I really like that. And then again, make sure your students down here at the bottom are submitting their post. Because if they leave the page and they don't click submit post at the bottom, then no one's going to see their post. And they'll say, but I did it. It's like, well, you got to submit that post. Okay, now here's something I found out, folks. When you are using general discussions, you need to actually go into your general discussion, click on the edit button, and this will come up, select forum participants. And this is because you don't always want your whole class doing a discussion. You may, and then you can assign it to the whole class. It's as easy as assigning their assignments. But if you're trying to do a reteach or an extension or small group work, then you'll want to select those participants specifically. And then notice down here where it says lock. If I were to lock the discussion, the kids would no longer be able to access it. And I don't believe it even shows up. So this was new for me because, you know, Active Classroom is still advancing their product. So I had not noticed that before. So if it had been there, I was not paying attention. But you want to make sure that it is not locked. Okay, so let's give it a try. So you're going to log in with your same student ID that you had. So if you want to go ahead and log in, and you're going to go to general discussions again. And really at this point, what I'd like for you to see in here is when you click on Netiquette, I've actually embedded a video, and it's a video from outside of Active Classroom. So imagine getting your kids going into the discussion and kind of walking them through how to access, and then you're going to let the video teach them about Netiquette. And that would be the introduction. So give that a try. Go on there and get to the Netiquette. And if you want to just make a post. Now at this point, I would also like to just kind of open it up. So if some of you would like to go to the by assignment and click on I think it's Atlas of the US History or Texas History. If you like to go ahead and try that one, that would also be fine. So at this point, I just want to give you that option. I'm not going to go into, even in a response or a post, you can put a link or you can put an image. That's a little more than what we are going into. So you can do it either here or you can go to insert and do it down the side. And so it's pretty much the same thing. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to give you that opportunity just to go to your Active Classroom and take a look at the post. And I'm going to refresh mine, go back to general, and I'm going to the Netiquette. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I know some new folks joined us. Thank you so much for joining us. Glad you were able to make it. So this is what it looks like. They're going to see the video right up there. Oh, good. Like it for Reteach Online. So you can go ahead and play this if you want. It's a good little video. Not a lot of talking, but a lot of movement. It's only about 2 minutes. And Jessica, how are we doing on time?
We're doing fine.
Okay. So if you want to play that and go ahead and post there, you're welcome to do that. And just remember this capital A takes you back to the home page, so to speak. And I am in as a teacher, but you just go to discussion. And here's the assignments. So every time your child goes to your student goes to by a discussion and by assignment, it's there. They can go ahead and start posting about those interactive map activities. Okay. So they may not even know it's there, but you don't have them try it and see what they see there. But I would love to know what y'all think about the video that I've got in there for Netiquette. So if you want to go ahead and just take a look at it. Again, at the end of my webinar, there are resources for you to see and that you can extend and look at. Let me get this back up. I'm going to share. I'm going to finish this up real quick while y'all are doing that. This is in the way. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to let you know, every time we have one of these webinars, they're being recorded. And we have some really great resources on discussions, on etiquettes, on some frames you can use. When you are in active classroom under your teacher credentials, if you go to professional learning, and then you'll go to webinars and go to watch. You can look at the other information too, but this is about some resources that we have. And you can see right here, these are some that have already been recorded. And you can see over here where it says watch on the right. You click there, you can go at your own speed. You can slow it down. You can pause it so you can take notes, whatever it is you'd like to do. And some of those resources in active classroom specifically, one on powerful readings, powerful discussions. I borrowed some things from there. Taking the sting out of the conversation, how to help students hear voices they disagree with, and then encourage civil discourse to discuss controversial topics in the secondary classroom. And secondary is considered 6 to 12. But sometimes at this time of the year, I know when I taught 6th grade, they were still kind of babies. That's what I called them. I know they're middle schoolers. I was really careful until we got to the spring. They were still trying to find their way out of elementary, and some of you may not even have students in the classroom yet. So I would take it a little easy there on really controversial topics. It could be something as, what do you prefer, remote learning or in the classroom? So that could be controversial in this environment. Even to wear a mask or not wear a mask, that's pretty controversial in most of the states. And then here I've got some of these are actually resources that I used, and that video is by Pamela Karen. Just was a really cute. There are several on there. Some of them were kind of long, and some of them just didn't have the tone that I was looking for. This one was kind of fun, had a funny example on one. So I was particular, as I'm sure you all are, with what I chose to put in front of my colleagues and in front of students. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. And I thank you so much for spending your time with us. I noticed that there are some chats coming in. Do we have any questions that that we can answer for you?
We had one, but I believe it's been answered. It was a while back when you had mentioned CER and what some people were wondering what it was. And Laura said claim, evidence, and reasoning, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so that's really the only question that I saw. Everyone, I did post a link to the evaluation. If you don't mind taking just a few seconds to fill that out for us, that would be great and very helpful.
That is, and y'all, I want you to know, I was an active classroom advocate before I also started doing some work for active classroom. I can tell you that active classroom social studies services is so responsive to ideas that teachers share with us. And when you give us information about how we can make things better, we would really love to have your feedback. So we value your feedback. Please be honest with us. So anything you can do to help us get better at what we do and meet the needs of the teachers, we want to do that. We want to do that. And it has truly been my pleasure to work with you today with professionals who are